Good morning, everyone. So I hope that you are feeling well right now. So this morning we're going to discuss about foregrounding devices for our MC Elect 1 subject. First, our objectives for this lesson. So at the end of this lesson, you're expected to explain the concept of foregrounding and its rule and stylistic analysis. By the end of this lesson, you are able to explain what is foregrounding, the concept of foregrounding, and its rule and stylistic analysis. Second one, appreciate the significance of foregrounding in creating emphasis, surprise, and impact in literary texts. Third one is identify the different types of foregrounding and their corresponding stylistic devices. So foregrounding devices, it has lots of different types. There are different types of foregrounding devices that we can find as we go along with our discussion. So any questions or clarifications with our objectives? All right, none so far. So now let's proceed to our discussion. So what is foregrounding? So are you familiar with foregrounding? All right, so I know that this is for our first time to hear what is foregrounding devices. So just listen attentively and finish this video because you will learn what is foregrounding and its concept, and there are different types of foregrounding. So what is foregrounding? So foregrounding is a stylistic device that includes the principles of formal textual organization that focus the reader's attention on some certain fragments of the message. So when we say foregrounding, it focuses on the reader's attention while they are reading for that certain literary text. And at the same time, the authors uses foregrounding as formal textual organization and that focus the reader's attention, in which authors uses techniques like sentence structures, word choice, and punctuations to guide the reader's eye. So as a reader, it can caught our attention, and at the same time, we can focus on that particular word that is being used by the author. And there are some certain fragments like the author chooses specific words, phrases, or even sentences to emphasize. So that's why foregrounding is being employed by different authors to make readers focus on that particular words or certain sentence. So next one, we have a stylistic device that draws attention to itself by defamiliarization from everyday speech. So it means that foregrounding can also make you stop and think because it uses in a way that's different from everyday speech. In which defamiliarization, this means that the author uses unusual words, phrases, or sentence structures to make the language seem fresh and unexpected. So the reason why we get attention to that, or we focus attention to that particular sentence, because the author uses language in a way that different from our everyday speech, and at the same time there are some words that are unusual and phrases that is unfamiliar with us, and sometimes sentence structures to make sense fresh and unexpected to us readers. Now let's proceed to the next slide. Almira, kindly read.
Foregrounding, it involves the use of linguistic devices to emphasize certain elements in the text, making them stand out or foregrounded. Foregrounding can create effects such as surprise, focus, or emphasis, and it is often used in poetry and literature to enhance meaning, style, and aesthetic appeal.
All right, thank you. So for grounding, it's all about the use of linguistic devices such as the word choice, sentence structure, and also the repetition of the words. That is making a text to stand out. That is what we called as foregrounded. And there are some certain elements that is used by the writers or the authors to highlight specific words, phrases, and ideas. So they want just readers to focus on that certain text. And by means of that, there are some effects of foregrounding that is followed after you read. So you might be surprised, focus, or can have the stand out and feel more important for that literary text. And it helps readers to focus on the particular sentence, and it can makes a surprise by the uses of such words. And as mentioned here, that it is often used in the poetry and literature because foregrounding, it can helps author or writer to makes his or her writing more interesting and meaningful as well. So that's why foregrounding is being employed in the different kinds of literary text or writings. Next one, the term foregrounding is borrowed from art criticism, which where foreground refers to the prominent elements of a painting. So it is compared to a painting because in the painting, as you can observe, that the artist uses different kinds of colors and different trick of painting in order to caught attention of the viewers. The same true with foreground, that the author uses different words or unfamiliar words that is in order to make attention for the readers, to make it focus, to make his or her focus on that particular word or sentence. For example, in this painting, the painter makes some tricks to make his work more beautiful, where as you can observe, it shows more realistic sky and ocean, just to make the viewers attract and feels amazed with his work. The same through with foregrounding, in which the author employed such words or praise just to make it stand out and to get attention of the readers. So let's say that the author uses words like shimmering or sparkling to describe the water in the ocean to make it more beautiful and interesting of such words in the sentence. And that's what we called as foregrounding. So, such deviations from linguistic or other socially accepted norms are labeled foregrounding, which invokes the analogy of a figure seen against a background. That is according to Litch, 1968. Alright, so since we already know what is foregrounding, and now let's proceed to the two ways on how to produce foregrounding. So we have some ways on how to produce foregrounding. First, we have the parallelism. So when we say parallelism, it's unexpected regularity, more of the same. So for an instance, there are some example of the use of parallelism. The nursery rhymes, adverts, and slogans often exhibit parallelism in the form of repetition and rhyme, but parallelism can also occur over longer texts. So, for example, there is a parallelism in the nursery rhyme. So, are you familiar with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star? Alright, so that's good. And the praise of Twinkle Twinkle, it is repeated at the beginning of the first two lines. And also there is a rhyme scheme of AABB, which creates a sense of rhythm and reinforces the parallelism. Alright, second one, we have the deviation. So deviation are unexpected irregularity in syntax. Deviation might be bad or incorrect grammar and syntactic rearrangement, or what we called as hyperbaton. So when we say deviation, it's all about the usage of bad or incorrect grammar in that particular sentence. For example, saying, me went to the store instead of using I went to the store. It is an example of incorrect grammar. But this makes sentence foregrounded because it makes your sentence stand out to that literary text. Using this division, it is when you break the usual rules of grammar or sentence structure. So as we all know that there are sentence structure when it comes to making a sentence. So we have the what we call the subject verb agreement, but this kind of sentence is that does not follow rules. It's just like surprising twist to an particular literary text. It could be a sentence that doesn't make sense at first, but it can make stand out for that literary text. And now let's proceed to the examples of the deviation. So first example is I doesn't like him. So in this example is that it's grammatically incorrect, which is the usage of words doesn't. It should be don't or the contraction of do not, or that, in which one important feature of grammatically deviation is the case of ungrammaticality, such as I does not like him by Litch 1969. Although this sentence is grammatically incorrect, but it can make stand out if we tried to read with this kind of sentence. Alright, let's proceed to the next paragraph. Jane, can you please read?
The most obvious examples of grammatical deviations are where a poet or a writer uses the double negative, the double comparative, and double superlative. In Old and Middle English, the idea of negation was often expressed several times a single sentence, as in the following example: I will never do nothing no more. That is according to Broke, 1977.
Alright, thank you. As mentioned here that during Old and Middle English, the idea of negation was often expressed several times as single sentence. So, as provided example, I will never do nothing no more. This is an example of double negative in which this sentence occurs when two negative words are used together in a sentence. So, for an instance, in the phrase I will never do and the phrase nothing no more, so there is a double negative. So it's an example of the double negative type of grammatical deviations. So in the Old English, it is particularly used and accepted because the focus of foregrounding is just to make a word or that sentence stand out in the literary text. Did you get my point? Alright, that's good. Alright, now let's proceed to the three types of foregrounding. So first, we have the convergence. So when we say convergence, it is a combination or accumulation of stylistic devices promoting the same idea. So it's when we say convergence and foregrounding, it refers to the use of multiple stylistic devices, which is to emphasize a particular idea or a theme. So one of the example of this provided is and heave, still unrestingly heave the Black Sea, as its vast tides were a conscience. So there is a simile, repetition, and inversion. So the simile here is the Black Sea as its vast tides. The Black Sea is compared uh, to a conscience, then highlighting the sea's vastness and its potential for calmness. And then also the repetition of the word and heave. So there is a repetition emphasizes the motion of the sea. And at the same time, there is an inversion, which is and heave, still unrestingly heave the Black Sea. So there's changes the usual of word order, which is a good point that this would be can make stand out to a particular literary text or in a sentence. So by means of analyzing a text, we can able to pay attention to the use of stylistic devices. So here in the kinds of praise, there is three stylistic devices that is being employed, the simile, repetition, and the inversion. So that is what we call as convergence. Alright, so second one, we have the coupling. So when we say coupling naman, it's all about semantically relevant appearance to equivalent elements and equivalent position. So when we say coupling, it's all about when a writer makes those two parts sound similar. So it focuses on the sounds, not just in meaning, but also in their in how they're put together. It's like they're coupling those parts together to make them stand out. So we have here the affinity, which is the type it's can be considered as an element and coupling. So the affinity, so when we say affinity, it's maybe the different in nature, so which is the phonetic, structural, and semantic. So when we say phonetic, it's all about the sounds of the words. So structural naman is all about the structure of words and how they are put together in the sentence to make a sentence. So semantic affinity, it's all about the meaning of the words. So these are the relevant uh, parts of coupling. So now let's have the phonetic affinity. So it is provided by phonetic stylistic devices, which is the alliteration. So when we say alliteration, it is all about what? It's all about the repetition of the consonant sounds. So one of the example of this alliteration is the Peter Piper pick a pick of pickled peppers. Yon, the repetition of the P sounds. How about assonance naman? So when we say assonance, it's all about the repetition of the vowel sound. So the example of one of the best example is that the cat sat on the mat. So there is a repetition of the sound a or a. There is a repetition of the vowel sound. How about yung paronomasya? So when we say paronomasya, it's all about the how words are played or the structure of word. How you put words together to form a particular sentence. Yun. As well as such prosodic features as rhyme, rhythm, and meter. So, foregrounding, it's not just about the alliteration, assonance, or paronomasya, but also there is also features which is the prosodic features as rhyme, rhythm, and meter. Alright, so now let's proceed to the next one. We have the syntactical affinity. So when we say syntactical affinity is achieved by all kinds of parallelism and syntactical repetition. So we have here anadiplusis, anaphora, framing, chiasmus, epipora, and etc. So the example of anaphora is farewell to the mountains high covered with snow, farewell to struts and green valleys below, farewell to the forest and wild hanging woods, farewell to the torrent and loud pouring flood. So yan yung example of anaphora. So what have you observed with the example of anaphora? So, diba, as you can observe, there is a specific type of syntactical affinity of that. So, which is there is a repetition of words or phrases at the beginning of the sentence. So, yung farewell to the mountain, farewell to the, there is a repetition for that. So, until into the second second line until the fourth line. So, paulit-ulit yung farewell to the. Yon. Yan yung tinatawag nating syntactical affinity, which is there is a syntactical repetition. So it can be achieved through various forms of parallelism and repetition. So as we all know that parallelism, there is also a repetition of such particular words or phrases in the particular sentence. So anaphora is a specific type of syntactical affinity that involves repetition of words or phrases at the beginning of the successive clauses. So pag there is a repetition at the beginning, that is what we call as anaphora. So This is an example of anaphora since there is a repetition of words or phrases in first the first clause or in the beginning of the successive clauses. So it is important also that we should consider the pattern since it can contribute the overall meaning and effect to of the text. So it can make it stand out once we follow the patterns of repetition and parallelism. So that's it. So next we have the semantic coupling. So when this is semantic coupling, it's demonstrated by the use of synonyms and antonyms, both direct and contextual. Root repetition, paraphrase, sustained metaphor, semantic fields, recurrence of images, connotations, or symbols. So when we say semantic coupling, it's all about the fancy way of saying that a writer uses words that are related in meaning to create a special effect, to make it stand out. So by means of using synonyms and antonyms in the particular sentence, and both direct and contextual, root repetition, pinaparaphrase, yung and other forms that can make it stand out in that particular sentence. So here is the example of the semantic coupling. So a soul as full of worth as void of pride. So as you can observe, the usage of the word full and void, they are semantically related, or what we call as antonymous, and occur in identical parallel position. So yung full and void, they are antonymous. So yung full and void, yon. So that's what we called as semantic coupling. So the last one, we have the defeated expectancy. So when we say defeated expectancy, there are some elements of the text receives prominence due to an interruption in the pattern of predictability. So from the word predictability, so when we say defeated expectancy, it's all about it's like surprise in the story that makes you pay attention to it. So as you can try to read that, you have that you can able to predict or to the next. So defeated expectancy, it happens when a writer breaks that pattern and does something unexpected. Here's the example of the defeated expectancy. So this is written by O. Wilde. Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have met since I met you. So as you can observe here, the speaker is repeating the phrase since I met you, right? So, but in a way that makes you pause and think. It's like they're trying to emphasize the importance of meeting Miss Fairfax, but they're doing it in a way that's a little bit unexpected. So, overall, when we say defeated expectancy, it's all about the way that writers use surprise to make the writing more interesting and memorable. So they put some twist to keeps you engaged while you are reading. So the normal arrangement of the text both in form and content is based on predictability, which means that the appearance of any elements in the text is prepared by the preceding arrangement and choice of elements. So, for example, the subject of the sentence will normally be followed by the predicate. You can supply parts of certain set phrases or collocation after you see the first element. So, it focuses on the predictability. So, for example, when you are reading this sentence, so the cat sat on the, tapos wala na siyang karugtong. So, you probably already know what comes next, right? So, you're expecting the word is mat because it's common phrase. So, the cat sat on the mat. So, doon ka pa lang sa the cat sat on the, hindi mo pa natapos, but you already know, you can already predict that the next of that word is mat. So, yun, that's what we call as predictability. So, the writers use patterns in their sentences and paragraphs to make the writing flow smoothly and easy to understand. So yun. Okay, an example from Oscar will display the importance of being earnest, perfectly illustrates how predictability of the structure plays a joke on the speaker, who cannot extricate himself from the grip of syntactical composition. So, Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have met since I met you. So, yan yung sinabi ni Will D. So, this example, the speaker kept repeating the phrase since I met you. So, which makes this phrase stand out to that sentence or particular literary text. Alright, so that's all for this morning. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you learned from this lesson. God bless.